The Shaw Festival 2019 season preview is made possible by the members of WNED-TV. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Anthony Chase, host of Theater Talk on WBFO. Welcome to the Shaw Festival 2019 season preview program. The Shaw Festival is kicking off its 58th season in beautiful Niagara-on-the-Lake with a lineup of 13 diverse shows, truly offering something for everyone. To learn more about what's happening at the Shaw Festival this year, I am pleased to be here with Tim Carroll, who is now in his third season as its artistic director. It's good to have you here with us.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And what everyone always wonders, we get the lovely brochure, we see what Tim has concocted for us this season, and everyone wonders, how do you put together the season?
What was he thinking?
What was he thinking?
Yeah. Well, you can imagine mostly, of course. You have these three theatres. You have a big festival theatre, you have the Royal George, which is a jewel box proscenium, and then you have our studio, which is in the round and more intimate. So the first thing is to think what suits those theatres. The next thing, of course, is to think, what are we good at? What sort of things do we do well? We do plays of the late 19th century and early 20th century well, so we better have some of those. And we want to have a range of things for everyone. We want to have things which are very family friendly. We want to have things which are old-fashioned and romantic and delightful. And we want to have at least one thing which is going to provoke walkouts and controversy. So
we've got all that.
So we've got all of that.
Well, going back to the idea of something family friendly, that seems to be one of the hallmarks of your artistic directorship, and this year we're all looking at C.S. Lewis's The Horse and His Boy. Can you talk about that show a bit?
Well, I'm not going to give away what we've got planned specially, except to say that it's going to be a beautiful, spectacular production. I've seen the designs and they're really stunning, and we've got some of our very best performers in the family show, because I really believe that it's one of the strengths of a company like ours is that we have actors who could just as well be in Man and Superman by Bernard Shaw, and they're bringing all of that talent to The Horse and His Boy for a family audience. We're going to have a great opportunity for kids and their parents to do a workshop before every show, as we did with Magician's Nephew last year. And really we're just trying to build on the success of Magician's Nephew. We had such a big hit with it. And
I've got to think too that for the design capabilities of the Shaw Festival, which are famed throughout the world, that these flights of fantasy and imagination that children's plays often allow you, give us a special opportunity with something like C.S. Lewis.
It's a really wonderful thing when you can do a play that has such challenges as a C.S. Lewis story, when you have flying horses and you have all sorts of magical animals and battles and so on. It really does challenge us, and I think there's no thrill like it, because the audience, no matter how many times they've seen film magic or CGI magic, they know that doing it in the flesh is harder and more special.
And I love that it's a play based on a book, because I remember being a child that you're in the theater and you don't want it to end. and if you have the book to go back to, that the experience can continue. You can continue to think about that and talk about that. I remember as a young kid seeing a production of Brigadoon, and that is the musical that theatergoers can always count on the Shaw Festival to produce a big musical. And for me, kind of a surprising choice, because Brigadoon is not done that often, but it is a Lerner and Loewe classic with a glorious score. And can you tell us a little bit about revisiting Brigadoon? What is going on with this?
Brigadoon is an old chestnut. It's very romantic and beautiful. The music is ravishing. Some of the book is creaky now, and that's why it's fantastic to have Brian Hill reworking the book slightly, not with a heavy touch, but just enough to make the book as lively and zingy as the music undoubtedly is.
So it's the story of two hunters in the Scottish Highlands, and they happen upon a town that's not on the map, little town of Brigadoon, and it turns out that it's a town that only comes to life once every 100 years. And well, you can see where this is going. You said it's lushly romantic. He falls in love with a girl in this town. And so that's the plot of Brigadoon, with this beautiful Lerner and Loewe score.
Oh, it's wonderful, and the great thing about a piece like Brigadoon is bits of it might be old-fashioned, but the central question of what would you give up for love can't go out of date.
But talking about something old, you are, I know you're aware, you are the Shaw Festival, and we expect Bernard Shaw. And it is rather thrilling this year, a momentous occasion that doing Man and Superman, including its third act, Don Juan in Hell.
Well, it's probably his greatest play. It's certainly, in my view, his greatest. And we are the Shaw Festival, so if we don't do the entire 5+ hours of the play, then who will? So I'm really excited that we're taking advantage of the fact that we're in a beautiful but quite remote part of the world where people have to drive, most of them, to come and see us. And I think if people are going to make the journey to Niagara, then they want a full day of theatre. They don't just want to come and park up, watch 90 minutes of theatre and then hit the road again. So it's a full day. It's going to have a delicious meal in the middle of it that you can book at the same time, and you can really take your time and luxuriate in some of the most amazing writing, I think, that's ever been put on stage.
And for this occasion, that you've selected a director who has worked her way up through the ranks of the Shaw Festival, that this is an interesting choice. And can you talk about selecting the director and what we hope for?
Well, Kimberly Rampersad joined the company as a performer and still performs with us. She's a fantastic dancer and singer and actor, really disgracefully talented person generally, and then was a trainee director in my first season and worked with me on Androcles and the Lion, and I could see from that she has a real affinity with Bernard Shaw. But Man and Superman does have a huge leading role, John Tanner, and that's going to be played by Gray Powell, who has played Henry V and the lead in Middletown a couple of seasons ago and is one of our audience favourites. And Sarah Topham, who played St. Joan 2 years ago, is coming back to play Anne Whitefield. And many others of our best actors are in that company, and I think it needs a strong company, and it needs a company who really can take you through the incredible journey that it goes on.
All those leading players, and I think one of the things I like to do when I go to the Shaw Festival is where you have all those beautiful portraits of the ensemble, and you go up and you look and you remember what you've seen people in, and it is one of the treats of the Shaw to see very fine actors whom you've often seen before, and to see them in something special, which certainly this will be. And we'll be back with more of Shaw Festival 2019 in a moment.
The role of props, it's to give a feel of how the director and the designer want a show to become. As a props builder, we want to do things very accurately for the most part. In Shaw plays, they're historical. We work very hard on making sure everything's correct. Currently, my main focus is soft props, so that's upholstery, curtains, cushions, things like that. I do a lot of sewing and fabric dyeing. But we are all trained here to do many different aspects, for instance, welding or painting or furniture building. A lot of our props do work. For instance, we have 3 gramophones this season for 3 different shows. There's a book that's going for Brigadoon that will be pulled from a tree and opened up, and it will light up both from the inside and the pages to create a magical moment. There will be a working typewriter on stage for Getting Married, and we just had to clean it up and repair a few things on it, oil it up, get ribbon in it. So it's a very small thing that the audience doesn't necessarily see, but it helps the world for the actor that they can be completely immersed.
The Shaw Festival preview show continues. I'm Anthony Chase, back for more with artistic director Tim Carroll. Next up in Shaw's lineup are 2 familiar titles, both timeless classics, Cyrano de Bergerac and the Glass Menagerie. Cyrano, it's been a while since we saw it on the festival stage with Heath Lamberts, and I think everyone who plays Cyrano gets called the great Cyrano of his generation, as Heath Lamberts was. So this time at the Royal George, and what do you have planned for us this time?
Well, this generation's Cyrano, which is Tom Rooney, and Roxanne for this generation, which is Deb Hay, and I think they'll be an amazing team. They're both wonderful actors. Jeff Irving as Christian will be fantastic as well. And Chris Abraham is coming from Toronto to direct it. He's a fabulously talented director. So I'm very excited to see that play. I think it's probably the most romantic play ever written. It makes me cry in every version I've ever seen it. So bring your handkerchiefs.
And this is a new adaptation. This is the world premiere of a new version. Why a new version of Cyrano?
Well, I think you should always look at translations anew. It's a surprising thing how quickly they date. If you read any of those Penguin Classics translations of Chekhov from the 60s, you would think that you could never do his plays because they seem so stilted. So I commissioned Kate Hennig, our Associate Artistic Director and Canadian National Treasure, to do a new version, and she's come up with the most beautiful poetic version, which is as romantic as the original.
Glass Menagerie endures Tennessee Williams' classic play. That this production of Glass Menagerie, that again, familiar title, many people will have seen Glass Menagerie before.
Well, we've never done it at the Shore, and maybe it gets done around the place, but it's not been done anywhere near where we are for many, many years. And I have a wonderful Hungarian director, Laszlo Berczes, coming over to direct his first production in Canada. He's a great friend and a genius director, so I think it's a chance for people who know the play to see an Eastern European's version of it, but also anyone who doesn't know the play will be introduced to one of the most beautiful pieces of poetic writing ever. It's a play that I've always had close to my heart.
And these roles are so vivid, and you know, everybody wants to do the roles in Glass Menagerie, and you know, the people who've played them are always memorable for having done it. And the Shaw Festival?
Well, yes, we have some wonderful actors. We have some returning actors like Andre Sills, who was wonderful in Master Harold and the Boys for us, and an Octoroon. He's playing Tom, the autobiographical centre of the play. Julia Corse, who is one of our favourites, is playing Laura, the daughter who the mother, Amanda, is trying to get married off and not having much success with. So Amanda is a great role, of course, because she seems to want to get her daughter married, but maybe she's sabotaging it as well. And that's Allegra Fulton. And then the gentleman caller, who is really the event around which the play revolves, is this person here to pay court to Laura. Is he going to even propose to Laura? Is Jonathan Tan, another of our favourite actors, who's returning to the company, and we're very excited to have him back.
Seeing Glass Menagerie at the Shaw Festival kind of reminds us of not just our emotional connection to the story, but the situation in which this family finds itself, which is, you know, really rather powerful. She has no options left unless she can get that daughter married, and that even sounds like a George Bernard Shaw plot, potentially, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Well, also playing this year at the Shaw Festival, two unique plays, both adapted from films, The Lady Killers and Rope. Let's begin with Lady Killers, which may not be, well, as familiar. People know Rope from the Hitchcock film, but Lady Killers, a more British kind of film, and yes, great fun.
It's a very morbid and macabre and naughty comedy, but very, very funny. It's group of bank robbers who, using an old lady's house as the den from which to launch their heist, and of course it all goes wrong, and the old lady has to be killed, and the question is, what's stopping them? She's only one little old lady, so why are they making such hard work of murdering her?
And the casting of this is in the role of the woman. She's very suspicious, except not at the critical moment when it counts, right? Right. Yeah. Who is playing this role?
Oh, well, we have Chick Reed coming to play Mrs. Wilberforce, and she will be the nemesis of a cast of great Shaw actors like Damien Atkins, who was Sherlock Holmes last year in the Alec Guinness role, and we have Martin Happer and Rick Reed and all sorts of other Shaw favourites in the company, which I'm looking forward to working with very much.
Wonderful. Now, Rope, also from a film, different kind of deal here. This one, you know, if we're going to say something that is, you know, frightening, a little bit sick, I find Lady Killers to be quaint and charming, but the plot of Rope, that's another story. Yes,
well, it's a kind of murder mystery, and one of the things that I know is deeply embedded in the traditions of the Shaw Festival is the murder play at the Royal George. But I actually think it's one of the best murder plays ever written. It's really about the psychology of people who have committed a crime. We know who's done it as soon as the play starts. It's not as if it's a whodunit exactly, but the question of whether they'll get away with it and whether they will give themselves away is brilliantly built up.
But I think the setup is enticing. I think if you tell people the setup, that they're going to want to see this play. So what is the setup of Rope?
Well, the setup is that two young, recent ex-students have murdered a friend of theirs for kicks, really just to see if they can get away with it.
But that's not the fun part, right? The fun part is...
The fun part is they murder him, they stick his body in a trunk, and then they invite people around for a party. And that's a kind of, that's pretty full on.
Pretty full on, and you can see exactly why Alfred Hitchcock loved this plot and did this story. So now everyone wants to see that. And stay with us. TC and I have lots more coming up.
Wardrobe plays a large role in supporting any theatrical production as it reinforces characters. It helps to express a theme or an idea, to create mood, to create an ambiance, to help bring us into another world. A Horse and His Boy is one of the books of Narnia, and it's such a fantastic moment for us in Wardrobe because it allows us to play in a completely made-up fantasy world. This is a synthetic fur on the Tumnus chaps. Now, if you can imagine the performer wearing this, how much movement and articulation that these chaps actually have, how much more life we have to a character. Now, Brigadoon is a beautiful musical which takes place in a mythical place in Scotland. Our take on it is both a traditional usage of plaids and tartans. We also have just started in the room Married, and we've switched its time period into the 50s. Shannon Lee Doyle is bringing a really new, fresh look on a slightly more traditional piece. I love to create with the people that are here at Shaw. I just always want to see what the next challenge brings.
We're continuing our look at the 2019 Shaw Festival Theatre season. I'm Anthony Chase with Shaw's artistic director, Tim Carroll. Let's discuss two playfully fun shows, both about women's role in society. Bernard Shaw's Getting Married and Mae West's play Sex. Well, it's the Shaw Festival, so let's begin with Bernard Shaw. So Getting Married gets done from time to time. It's a well-loved play.
I'm not surprised. It's a very funny play, and it gets to the point very quickly. You know, the young woman is supposed to get married, and on the eve of her marriage, she reads a pamphlet that makes her think that marriage might be a con, and that there might be nothing in it for her. And so the whole of the rest of the play is really, is anyone going to persuade her to get married, and should anyone get married at all? The argument itself is typically Bernard Shaw, brilliant, witty, turns on a sixpence. You don't know what you think by the end of it, but you certainly know that you've got to think.
It's interesting how often he visits the questions of what is best for women, and in this case, you know, marriage. Is this to the advantage of women? That oftentimes we get this. Yes, Mae West herself had, Mae West secretly married once, but you know, a famous single person. And I love in the conversation pairing the two of these. It's a very different look at female independence. Yes. How did Mae West's Sex get on this list? And can you give us a little, I think the background of the play would be really interesting for people.
Well, yes, in the 1920s, a play like Sex, even the title was enough to make a lot of people very offended, and the subject matter of the play, which is really about a prostitute who is given the chance to achieve respectability, and then the question, as always in any good play, is what are you willing to give up for what it is you want to get? And Mae West is very much in Bernard Shaw's camp in that she's not afraid to ask the difficult questions. She's not afraid to say maybe a prostitute and a wife are only two sides of the same coin. Maybe society is putting both of them into a situation which is really geared for the satisfaction of men. So a play with that message in 1920s and with the frankness that it shows about sex was always going to get her in trouble.
But Mr. Hinton, directing, he's a director known to us for liking to take us on challenging journeys. Can you talk a bit about him?
Well, Peter is, as you say, a very bold director, and I think we don't have enough of those. He will do something very bold with it, and I know that he's particularly interested in the gender politics of the piece. There may even be a little bit of gender bending to go along with the frankness on all the other aspects of sexuality that the play shows. I think people will be quite surprised by how ahead of its time the play is.
So shifting gears now, so TC, you've made some really bold choices for the season, but as I look through what you've done, two, for different reasons, pop out to me. The Russian play and Victory.
Mm-hmm. The Russian play is a very funny, very dark, almost monologue for a Chekhovian young woman who goes through it, and it both puts her through the mill but also puts us through the mill. It softens us up with laughter and then it punches us pretty hard.
And she's seeking to do what? This woman is seeking to?
What's everyone trying to do? She's trying to find love.
Okay.
And she finds it, and of course it doesn't turn out to be everything she thought it was. And in the world in which she lives, making a mistake in love is very much confused with making a moral error, or indeed committing a sin. And the consequences are, in the end, really shocking.
And this play will take place over lunch.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, a little bit of Russian darkness at lunchtime.
A little Russian darkness at lunchtime. Well, I will certainly also have a glass of wine. I think I'll settle in and enjoy this play. So, Victory. This is the one that comes with the warning that, you know, that's designed to offend. Offensive language. This play in particular, apparently, it merits the warning. What is it that is going to?
Well, Howard Barker's a really interesting artist because he questions all of the assumptions that we have about theatre. So, of course, the surface answer is there's a lot of extremely bad language in the play. There's every word you can think of more than once, and often deliberately gratuitously. And that's a key to the play because it is about language as a weapon. And it is about the way in which we talk to each other. And beyond that, it's about our choices in reaction.
And attracting you to this play, is it the playwright? What has attracted you to the play?
I love the challenge that he puts to us in every play, that you will not have an easy restoration of order at the end. There won't be that sense of, but in the end everything turned out all right, nor indeed in the end everyone died, but at least the next generation had learnt something from it. He doesn't give you any of that comfort.
And what will you do when the hapless tourist comes by Victory and then leaves? Are you expecting complaints, or do you think that the audience will be prepped for this? I
hope we will prepare them properly. I think we have to make sure that everyone who buys a ticket knows that this is going to be a challenging experience. I myself have been to Howard Barker plays and left puzzled and had to go back a second time.
So TC, let's wrap up this year's preview and kind of put a bow on it, referring to Christmas, because it used to be, you know, Shaw Festival ending in October. Oh, now it's November. Now you go clear through Christmas. And Christmas Carol back again, and I understand it has sold out.
Yes, both years.
Both years. And so, you know, if you want your tickets, get them rather early. Don't wait. Don't think you can walk up to the box office. But added to the mix this time, Irving Berlin, Holiday Inn.
Yes. Well, you know, as soon as I got to Niagara and saw how beautiful it is at Christmas, I said, why don't we have a Christmas show? And everyone seemed to agree with that. The audience certainly agreed, and as you say, we're about to do Christmas Carol for the 3rd year, and I'm sure it'll sell out again. So we're really just testing the water to see if Holiday Inn, a big old holiday musical, will also sell. The early signs are very good. I think it will. I think it'll do very well. We have Kate Hennig directing it. We have some of our best tap dancers and singers in the cast.
I confuse it all the time with White Christmas.
Yes.
So Holiday Inn, White Christmas.
There's an easy explanation for the confusion, which is that Holiday Inn is the movie in which the song White Christmas first appeared.
All right, so this show has White Christmas.
Oh yes, and it has blue skies, and it has Dancing Cheek to Cheek, and it has Easter Parade. It's a fabulous musical, but it isn't the film or the movie or the musical White Christmas.
So that's Holiday Inn, and that gets us through the holidays. We have just a few minutes left. TC, could you talk a little bit more about the Beyond the Stage events? There's a new one with the mysterious title of Mystery Encounters. What is Mystery Encounters?
People are always amazed when they come backstage at the number of different jobs that they hadn't even imagined might exist. So the Mystery Encounters, which look them up on the website for the times and so on, but when you get your ticket, you come along and you will meet someone who works at the shore whose job you probably didn't even know existed, and they will tell you what they do and give you another insight and another glimpse into just how fiendishly complicated it is to get a show on stage. And we're also doing our secret theatre for the 3rd year, which is what it sounds like. You sign up, you come along at a certain time, if you were lucky enough to get a ticket, and you have no idea what will happen.
Well, yet again, it looks as if the Shaw Festival has a diverse and exciting season in store for us, and definitely something this year that will appeal to everybody. Add in the experience of being in beautiful Niagara-on-the-Lake, and how could you possibly go wrong? So thank you so much for coming and visiting in with us, TC. It is always a great pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for joining us. Remember, the Shaw Festival season runs from April the 6th through December the 22nd. You can go online to shawfest.com and reserve your tickets now. I'm Anthony Chase, and you can hear me on Theatre Talk Friday mornings on WBFO 88.7 FM. Thank you for watching.
The Shaw Festival 2019 season preview is made possible by the members of WNED-TV. Thank you